Mr. Grandson of Right Thought. Welcome to the School of Marvelous Light. Since the world is coming into a time where money is going to be changing how it's been used, the system, how it's gone is going to be changing. And because of that, that's bringing a lot of fear. And really, this is all part of the separation of the wheat and the tares. There is a way to obtain the desires of one's heart. And most people grow up in this world believing that that way is money. And if that were true, then Christ would have said that. But he didn't. He said, I am the way, the truth, the life. Come unto me, and I will give you life and give it to you more abundantly than you had before. So there's a certain life that money can give you, but then there's something else that can give you more than what money can give you. So we want to talk about that so that people can remove the fear of not having the desires of their heart, not having their needs met. You know, as the Master told us already, he said, your Father knows what you have need of before you ask him. He knows what you need. And so if you ask in faith, then you will have what you need. If you ask believing, these are all the teachings of Christ. He told us the true way to live, to remove all of that bondage and stress and labor. Come to me, all you who are heavy laden, laboring. So all of you who have worked yourself to death to try to have a life for yourself, I'll take all that bondage and that labor off of you and make it light and easy. So we want to talk about the light and easy way to the Father, to the truth. We want to talk about that so that those who will find themselves not being able to participate in the world of buying and selling, those who are not worshiping mammon, will be able to have life and have life more abundantly, regardless of whatever happens in the 3D world. All right? So I'm going to read from the book of Ecclesiastes first, if y'all want to follow along. The book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 7. Start at verse 7. Surely oppression maketh a wise man mad, and a gift destroyeth the heart. Better is the end of a thing than the beginning thereof, and the patient in spirit is better than the proud in spirit. Be not hasty in thy spirit to be angry, for anger rests in the bosom of fools. Say not thou, what is the cause that the former days were better than these? For thou dost not inquire wisely concerning this. So what is the preacher saying? He's saying, there's people that think that the old days, when they say those were the good old days, well, they're not wise when they say that. That's why he's saying, the man who has the wisdom is saying, don't say that. Because you don't know what's to come. And you're hindering your future by saying with your word that those were the good old days in the past. So now you're actually saying that the days to come are terrible. You see? So use wisdom here. Use wisdom to change how you speak, how you use the word. You see? That's why he says, say not thou. So don't use your word improperly. We want to use wisdom when we use the word so that we can have the desires of our heart. See? Verse 11. Wisdom is good with an inheritance, and by it there is profit to them that see the sun. For wisdom is a defense, and money is a defense, but the excellency of knowledge is that wisdom giveth life to them that have it. So you see that he's speaking here and he makes this connection between two different things. He says money is a defense and wisdom is a defense. He starts by saying, blessed are those who, when they're given an inheritance or some money, that they also be given wisdom as an inheritance from you. And not just the money, because if you just have the money, then you won't have the life. You see? You need wisdom. You understand that? They're both a defense. But if you really want to understand the truth, then you will see that wisdom is what preserves your life. Okay? Wisdom giveth life to them that have it. You see? So what did Christ say? I come to give you life and life more abundantly. So then he comes to give you wisdom. Or in other words, he comes to give you the know-how to live. Now you know how. Before you were serving and slaving in Egypt, Israelites, weren't you? You were slaving in Egypt and you cried out because of that slavery to try to live. You're like, I'm working so hard. I have a little tiny ass place to live. I barely have any transportation. I can't have any joys of life or do any of the fun things that I want to do. I can't dream or do anything because all I'm doing is working all day long and laboring and heavy laden. Now, he who was sent to the lost sheep of the house of Israel is the one who says, come unto me, all you who are laboring, the same people that cried out because of their labor from the very beginning. It's nothing new under the sun. You see? Okay. Let's see. Now we want to jump to the book of Proverbs. We'll go to chapter 3. So when Christ comes and says, I'm going to take those heavy burdens and all that labor off of you that you think is sustaining your life, and I'm going to give you the true way to live. Look at the birds and look how they live it. Do they toil? Why does he use that as an example if it's not about your laboring for your life? Not using wisdom. See, because if you were using wisdom, you'd have joy and peace, gladness, and rejoice. Right? So if you're not able to do that, it's because you're not using wisdom for your life. You see? Proverbs chapter 3, verse 1. My son, forget not my law, but let thine heart keep my commandments. Now, what is Christ's commandment to us? See how easy it is? Love your neighbor as yourself. There is wisdom. There is wisdom. See, because the one who had the wisdom said, hear the conclusion of the whole matter of living. What's the purpose of life, in other words? To fear El and keep his commandments. That's the whole duty of man. That's the whole purpose of his life, is to love his neighbor as himself. That's what he's created to do. He's not created to do anything else other than to exude love from himself to his neighbor. So he says, forget not my law. Okay, love my neighbor as myself. That fulfills the law. So don't never forget that. For length of days and long life and peace shall they add to thee. So if you keep this commandment, fearing El, which is the first commandment, and love your neighbor as yourself, which is the second commandment. If you keep those commandments, you will have length of days, peace in your life. You see that? He says, let not mercy and truth forsake thee. See, if it's not about your neighbor, then why does he says mercy in the very next verse? In order to show mercy, there must be someone to show mercy upon. Well, that's your neighbor when your neighbor falls short. Because once you elevate to a certain level of consciousness, you understand that you cannot judge your neighbor because you yourself have sinned. Or in other words, you can't throw any stones because you are not without sin. So you leave the throwing of the stone to the word. The word is what's the stone that's going to crush everybody to powder. It's already written in the word, is it not? Okay then. He says, bind them about thy neck, neck and write them upon the table of thine heart, and so shall you find favor and good understanding in the sight of God and man. Trust in Abba with all your heart, and lean not into your own understandings. In all thy ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct thy path. Be not wise in thine own eyes. Fear Abba, and depart from evil, and it shall be health to thy navel and marrow to thy bones. Honor Abba with thy substance, and with the first fruits of all thine increase. So shall thy barns be filled with plenty, and thy presses shall burst out with new wine. What does that mean? This is all about your neighbor. Remember a couple videos ago when I said, bake me a cake as fast as you can? When the woman didn't have anything, the press were empty. See, what we just read? Well, hers were full and stayed full because she gave to her neighbor. Y'all see that? She gave to her neighbor Elijah what he needed first. And so hers didn't run out. Let's read that again. Honor Abba with thy substance, with what you have, and with the first fruit of your increase. So give first. You see what I'm trying to say? Like the woman did with Elijah. Bake me first a cake. Well, I only have enough for me and my son. We're going to eat it and die. Bake me first the cake. And she did. And she ate many days, it said. Why? Because she gave the first fruits of her increase, what she had, her substance, you see. And her barn was filled with plenty, you see. And her presses burst out with new wine, you see. That's going to be your life, because now you found the true life, which is loving your neighbor. That's how you live. You can't take from your neighbor. You can't hate on your neighbor. You can't seek to destroy your neighbor to rise. You can't do that and think that your life is going to have peace and joy and gladness and everlasting satisfaction. You can't possibly believe that. You can't. You all want to exist in this world of joy and happiness, and everybody's getting along and happy, but you yourself are not willing to exude that from your heart today? Well, then you're a hypocrite. You want something you're not willing to give. That's hypocrisy. You must be willing to do it. You must be a doer of the word, not just a hearer of it. See, because the whole world runs around loving each other in word and in tongue. But what does the scripture say? Let us not love in word and in tongue, but in deed and in truth. By what you do. You show you love your neighbor as yourself by what you do for your neighbor. You give him the first fruit of your increase, and then your stuff increases. That's what Abba's saying. That's how you tithe. Giving to your neighbor who needs relief in some way, shape, or form. If you do that, like Elijah needed, then yours will be filled like that woman's was. See? That's why he said, keep it around your neck. Don't you forget this. Wear it like a necklace. You see, his commandment, love my neighbor as myself. As soon as I see my neighbor, love him as myself. That's all I got to do today. It ain't hard. I don't have to stress. You see, because all of that stuff that he was telling you not to do, that's all stuff that's not loving. Coveting your neighbor is not loving. Committing adultery is not loving. That's all it boils down to. I don't care what other commandments you start saying. It's all about loving. That's why Christ magnified it and made it simple and fulfilled it for us, you see. He says, your barn shall be filled with plenty, and your presses shall burst out new wine. He says, my son, despise not the chastening of Abba, neither be weary of his correction. For whom Abba loveth, he corrects, even as a father in the son in whom he delighteth. That's why I keep calling him Abba, see? Because he's a father who loves his son, who chastens him and corrects him. When he's not loving, when he's not being kind, when he's not being patient, his conscience bears witness against him. That's Abba's correction rod, his conscience. And you learn to be comforted by the conscience because you learn to love what it's doing for you, which is purifying you, keeping you on the straight and narrow. A lot of times you neglected him, just like Pinocchio did with Jiminy Cricket. Jiminy Cricket was like, I'm your conscience, and Pinocchio ignored him many times, listening to somebody else's words, didn't he? And he found himself in a world of hell, chasing money, trying to be rich and famous. See? Because money is a defense, but wisdom gives life to those who have it. Money can't give life to somebody. Christ proved that wisdom can when he said, Lazarus, come forth. Can money do that? Can money do that? Destroy this temple, and in 3 days I shall build it up again. Can money do that? Okay, then. He says, verse 13, happy is the man that findeth wisdom. See? Happy is the man that findeth a big bag of money. That's not what he said. He says, the man that finds wisdom. He's going to be happy. So do you want to be happy? Happy is the man that findeth wisdom, and the man that getteth understanding. For the merchandise of it is better than the merchandise of silver, and the gain thereof than fine gold. You see what I'm trying to say? Money is a defense. Surely it is. But wisdom brings life to those who have it. You see that? Easy to understand. He said the worth of the wisdom that you get is worth more than fine gold. You see that? She is more precious than rubies, and all the things that thou can desire. I want you to hear this good. All the things that you can desire are not to be compared unto her. So then, what do you think you need to be getting today? Chasing after vain riches, rubies, gold, diamonds, which are the things that will be added unto you if you search for wisdom. I can prove it to you. God says, Solomon, what do you want? I'll give you anything that you want. Solomon says, give me wisdom to rule over this people. God said, because you didn't ask me for the vain riches, I'm still going to give them to you. Because that's a byproduct of wisdom. So you don't want the wisdom and get the byproduct, which is what you're searching for anyway in the 3D world. But you're going to chase after the 3D riches and forget the thing that will give you that. And search after temporary riches. Nope, we ain't doing that. Listen carefully. For the merchandise of it is better than the merchandise of silver, and the gain thereof than fine gold. She is more precious than rubies, and all the things that you can desire are not to be compared unto her. Length of days is in her right hand, and in her left hand riches and honor. See? I told you, it's a byproduct of wisdom. So search for wisdom. How to live right is wisdom. How life works is wisdom. See? Because that's what you're doing when you're I am. You're living, and when you're living, you must do that the right way. Well, the Father showed us how to do it the right way through wisdom. See? He says, she is more precious than rubies, and all the things you can desire are not to be compared to her. Length of days is in her right hand, and her left hand riches and honor. Her ways are ways of pleasantness, and all her paths are peace. All of her paths are peace. Earlier we read that if you keep the commandments and you stay focused on Abba, he'll lead you on his pathway. Well, that path is peace. You see? He says, she is a tree of life to them that lay hold upon her. Length of days is in her hand. Let me stop them before they eat of the tree of life and live forever. The searching for wisdom is what they're searching for. That's why they ate the tree of the knowledge. And if they find wisdom, then they'll live forever. So let me separate them from that for a while. You see? You see? He says, Abba hath by wisdom has founded the earth. Oops, excuse me, I went too far. She is a tree of life to them that lay hold upon her, and happy is everyone that retaineth her. So you want to be happy? You want to have riches and honor? You want to have length of days and joy and peace? Find wisdom. You see? It says, by wisdom has he founded the earth, by understanding hath he established the heavens. You see this? My son, let not them, verse 21, depart from thine eyes. Keep sound wisdom and discretion, and so shall they be life unto thy soul and grace to thy neck. Then shalt thou walk in thy way safely. Like I said, you ain't gonna have to worry about what they doing out there. They're about to change the system, and they're gonna do this, and they're gonna do that, and then that's gonna happen, and then the Antichrist is gonna do that, and then this is gonna happen, and that's gonna happen. And he has not given us the spirit of fear, but a spirit of a sound mind. Sound mind means wisdom. You see, where there is peace, we keep reading. And life, that's what Christ said he came to give you. See? When you lie down, you shall not be afraid. To go back one more verse. You shall walk in your way safely, and your foot shall not stumble. When you lie down, you shall not be afraid. Yeah, you shall lie down, and your sleep shall be sweet. Be not afraid of sudden fear, neither of the desolation of the wicked when it cometh. See what I'm trying to tell you right now, quickly? You see what I'm trying to tell you right now, quickly? You see what I'm saying to you? There's a separation of the wheat and the tares. Which one are the wicked ones? How are they going to be divided from the living beings? The ones who have found life, which are wheat. Wheat brings life. Tares don't bring no life. See that? Tares bring tears. That's all they bring, man. You see? He says, be not afraid of sudden fear, neither of the desolation of the wicked when it cometh. For Abba shall be thy confidence, and shall keep thy foot from being taken. Watch the very next verse, guys. Withhold not good from them to whom it is due, when it is in the power of thine hand to do it. Say not unto thy neighbor, go and come again, and tomorrow I will give thee, when thou hast it by thee. Devise not evil against thy neighbor, seeing he dwelleth securely by thee. Strive not with a man without cause, if he have done thee no harm. Envy thou not the oppressor, and choose none of his way. I mean, guys, the reason why I'm reading it like this is because I'm emphasizing that it's saying the same thing, just in a different way, right here. If you get wisdom, then you will know that it's about how you treat your brother. Now, why would he say all this to say, if you find wisdom, you're going to get life and riches and honor and everything? And then you got to make sure you do this with your brother. That's the very next thing he says. You won't be afraid when it comes for the wicked, but you're going to have confidence. Why? Because you don't withhold good from those who is due. And when you have it in your hand to give it, you do. You don't tell your neighbor to go. It's all about your neighbor. Devise not evil against thy neighbor, verse 29 say. Strive not with your neighbor, verse 30 say. Make sure. Strive not with a man without cause, your neighbor. See what I'm trying to say to you? That's the wisdom. It ain't complicated or hard. It's just that when you're dealing with a hard heart, it's complicated. For him to think, wait a minute, by giving up my life for my neighbor's sake, I'm actually finding my life. Does that match up with Christ did and said? Because he didn't just say it. He's no hypocrite. Does it say the greatest love is that a man give up his life for his friends? So if that's the greatest love, what can I do that's greater than that? But what can I do greater than give up my life for my neighbor? It's a beautiful tree out there. Look at this, y'all. Ain't that pretty? It's a beautiful tree. That's the greatest thing you can do is love your neighbor. That's where life is at. Now, If that's not what it's about, what was the first error that y'all saw happen? Cain and his little devious little act against his brother. Correct? Correct? The first murderer. All right then, first hater of his neighbor. You see what I'm trying to say to you here? Envy not, thou oppressor, and choose none of his ways. So he tells us not to envy. What was Cain's problem? He was envying. Because check this out, what I'm saying to you. If you're laboring in the 3D for rubies, gold, and silver and everything to get rich, and you're laboring and working all hard and striving and stressing and sweating by the brow and doing all this, and then you look over to a man and he's laying in a hammock, swinging from between two trees with his eyes closed, and has gold and servants and riches, you're going to get envious of him. And it is only because you don't understand his labor. That's why you're envious. How did he get all the riches and gold? All he's doing is sitting on his ass all day. Well, maybe he's keeping God's laws. Maybe he's loving his neighbor as himself. And that's what allows him the freedom and the peace that we read about here to swing between those two trees on that hammock. Maybe that's why you don't have peace, because you're not keeping his commandments. You see that there? Devise not evil, strive not, envy not. It's very, very, very simple. You see? All right. Let's see. Verse 35. The wise shall inherit glory, but shame shall be the promotion of fools. Okay, let's go to chapter 4. Hear ye, children, the instruction of a father, and attend to know understanding, for I give you good doctrine. So what I'm about to say now is good doctrine. Good means true. It's true doctrine. It's something that's proven. I know it by experience that it works. This is what Solomon is saying here. You see? He says, for I give you good doctrine, forsake ye not my law. Does it change? Love your neighbor as yourself. That's good doctrine. Because if I were laying on a deathbed at a very old, ripe old age, getting ready to pass on from this physical body, and all my family were gathered around me, my loved ones and all this were around me, my children, my last words to them would be what, guys? Love one another. That's it. That's all. That's all I'm going to say, because that's the whole duty of man, isn't it? So why is everybody kicking against the bricks? It's because they're selfish. That's the only reason you wouldn't love your neighbor as yourself. Something wrong with your heart, which we're going to get into that too. You see? Forsake ye not my law. Okay? For I was my father's son, tender and only beloved in the sight of my mother. He taught me also and said unto me, so what did David say unto Solomon? David said, let thine heart retain my words and keep my commandments and live. That's it. If you want to have life and have it more abundantly, love your neighbor as yourself, like Christ said. He didn't tell you to do nothing else. People are complicating the truth. That is wisdom. That is everything. That is your purpose. To look out for your neighbor. Not to hate your neighbor, envy your neighbor, devise evil against your neighbor. Very simple. He taught me also and said unto me, let thine heart retain my words, keep my commandments and live. Get wisdom, there it is, get understanding and forget it not, neither decline from the words of my mouth. Forsake her not, and she shall preserve thee, wisdom that is. Love her, and she shall keep thee. Verse 7, wisdom is the principal thing. He says, hold on to wisdom, and she will preserve your life. No, money will. That's not what we read in the other place. The other place said wisdom will bring life to you. This is confirming it. Precept upon precept here, bud. This is confirming it. So he's saying, if you keep wisdom, and keep my words that I told you, my commandment, which is to love your neighbor, don't forsake that, then your life will be preserved. If you give up your life, you'll find it. Love her, and she shall keep thee. Keep thee means protect. Wisdom is the principal thing. Therefore, get wisdom. Therefore means this is why. This is why you need to get wisdom, because it's the most important thing. So, principal of the school. Who else is higher than him in that school building? So, the school of marvelous light. What else is higher than wisdom? He already said it's worth more than gold, fine gold, silver, rubies, and all the VVS's and and whatever else you can throw up there on the scale. It's going to outweigh it. Wisdom is more important than that. You see? Therefore get wisdom, and with all thy getting, get understanding. Exalt her, and she shall promote thee. How do you exalt wisdom? By teaching your neighbor about it. Like I'm doing right now. I'm exalting, saying, what's the most important in that? Ain't that exalting it? See? And she will promote thee. Christ said, if you honor my name, then I'll say your name. If you deny my name, I'll deny yours. Same thing we read in here. You see? He says, she shall bring thee to honor. And when thou dost embrace her, she shall give to thine head an ornament of grace. A crown of glory shall she deliver to thee. You hear that there? Hear, O my son, and receive my sayings, and the years of your life shall be many. How come it keeps saying that? Because wisdom is the tree of life. Loving your neighbor keeps you alive. Because you're valuable, more valuable than gold when you do that. You see? I shall make a man more valuable than the golden wedge of Ophir. Is it written? I shall make a man more rare than fine gold. Is it written? Acceptable men are made in the furnace of affliction. Is it written? Right there. She shall give to thine head an ornament of grace. See, because grace means you're not judging. Like Christ, he had an ornament of grace on his head because he bore wisdom. See what I'm trying to say? We're going to stone this woman. We're going to stone this woman. Woman, where are your accusers? They're all gone. Well, neither do I accuse you. Neither do I condemn thee. Go and sin no more. That's called grace. Because you're giving what you want. I want grace, so I'm giving it every time because I want it every time. You see that there? Hear, my son, and receive my sayings, that the years of your life shall be many. I have taught thee in the way of wisdom. See, way of wisdom. I have led thee in right paths. When you go, your steps shall not be straitened, and when you run, you shall not stumble. Saying the same thing again. Take fast hold of instruction, and let her not go. Keep her, for she is thy life. She is your life. Enter not into the path of the wicked, and go not into the way of evil men. Don't go chasing after vanity. Avoid it. Pass not by it. Turn from it and pass away. For they sleep not, except they have done mischief. And their sleep is taken away unless they cause some to fall. They got to do something wicked in that day. For they eat the bread of wickedness and drink the wine of violence, but the path of the just is as the shining light that shineth more and more unto the perfect day. The way of the wicked is as darkness. See, what does it say the way of the wicked is? What does it say here? They sleep not except they done mischief. See that there? And their sleep is taken away unless they cause some to fall. So they're hating their neighbors, in other words. That's all it means. They can't rest until they hate their neighbor. Well, you ain't like that, so you got to depart from that because your law is to love your neighbor. See? The world ain't doing that. That's the tares that's getting destroyed. See? He says, my son, attend to my words, incline thine ear unto my sayings, let them not depart from thy eyes, and keep them in the midst of thine heart, for they are life unto thee that find them, those that find them, and health to all their flesh. For they are life unto those that find them. Here we go again. Keep thy heart with all diligence, for out of it are the issues of life. So keep your heart. When you're dealing with your neighbor, deal with him correctly from your heart. Don't be in your heart thinking evil secretly, being hateful secretly inside your heart, because that will create issues in your life. We just read it. So we're giving you wisdom. You want to have a good life, then be good to your neighbor. Treat your brother good. Treat your brother the way you would have him treat you. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. For this is the whole duty of man. So keep your heart with diligence. Be watchful, because it get lazy sometimes. It get rebellious and don't want to do it. It sometimes thinks somebody is taking advantage of them. Sometimes it's offended because it's desperately wicked. So you have to watch it with diligence, just like you would a daughter, so that nobody can come in and defile her with their thoughts of lies. Find out what I'm saying. Find out what I'm saying here. Keep that heart with all diligence, for out of it are the issues of life. Put away from thee a froward mouth, and perverse lips put far from thee. What does this mean? In your heart, when you're thinking of your brother, put that perverse thought away from you. Oh man, this nigga always doing this, man. He gonna feel like this when I see him. When I bump into this guy, it's gonna be a problem. Put that shit away from you. You see what I'm saying? Let thine eyes look straight on. Love my neighbor as myself is the only thing I see. I don't see what he did. I don't see what he's saying. I don't see how he acting, because I don't judge by the seeing of my eyes, nor the hearing of my ears, but I judge righteous judgment. I judge the heart and the reins. So that's where I'm dealing with myself too, my heart and my reins. Is my heart right when I deal with my brother? That's all I need to be looking at. Let thine eyelids look straight before thee. Ponder the path of thy feet, and let thy ways be established. Love my neighbor as myself. I establish that. I'm not changing no matter what he do. Turn not to the right hand nor to the left, and remove thy foot from evil. What chapter 5 say, verse 1? My son, attend unto my wisdom, and bow down thine ear to my understanding, that you may regard discretion, and that your lips may keep knowledge. See that there? You see that? So now, what is the key to having the thing that you desire for yourself? It's finding out that the joy that you feel by providing someone's desire or their need, the joy that you feel from that outweighs the joy that you feel for anything that you get. That's just a byproduct of the labor you're doing for others. You happen to receive it because you reap what you sow. So if you paid attention to the sowing in others' lives around you that you were doing, then you would know what to expect in your reaping, because you know what you've been sowing. But out of your heart, you've been harboring hatred, perverse thoughts, like he says, those froward lips against your neighbor, envying, hating, as we've just read over and over. That's what wisdom is. It's loving your neighbor. If you can't do that, then you find yourself falling short, and you find yourself on the outside of the gate, where everybody else that is a hater is at. You see what I'm saying? So that's what destroyed in the beginning. It was envy for your neighbor. Well, that's what has to be corrected in the end, because he's claimed the ending from the beginning. Silawam Israel.